anyone else. So if someone else joins us, that's great. If not, we got a good group tonight. So as always, I know I enforce this a lot, or emphasize is a better word, emphasize this a lot. If you ever have questions, if anything doesn't feel good or you're confused by something, always, always, always grab me before or after class, ask. That's the only way I really know if you need help or if you're enjoying or not enjoying what we're doing. So never hesitate to let me know. Tonight, we're going to get started lying down. So go ahead and start to lie back on your mat. And I laugh when I pause before class and act like I'm thinking about how we're going to get started, because if you've taken a lot of classes with me, you know I pretty much always have us get started on our back. But I do genuinely think about it. And I still always decide that that's where I like to start us, because in my opinion, that's the most relaxing place. Sometimes teachers will have you start in a seated position or a child's pose maybe, but I just feel like lying on your back is just a good start. So that being said, if that is not a good start for you, by all means, find another shape that feels good. Maybe it is in a child's pose or in a seated position. If that feels better for you, you're welcome to start there. But whatever shape you are in, I invite you to close your eyes now if you haven't already. We're just gonna pause for a few moments. We're gonna start to slow down. We're gonna start to deepen our breath. So you're actually gonna imagine that you're following that breath. As you inhale, feel that breath coming in through the nose, then feeling the chest begin to expand, the lungs, the chest, the stomach. So your stomach becomes a balloon and you're blowing up that balloon as you inhale. Maybe even counting to 4 or 5 as you inhale, nice and slow. And then same thing as you exhale, beginning to press that breath back out. I'm going to do that a couple times. Allowing yourself to begin to slow down that breath. And just starting to kind of press pause. You can kind of press pause on whatever it was you were doing before you got here, whatever it is you're going to be doing once you finish your practice. And just for the next hour, allow yourself to really be fully present on your mat. Kind of tuning everything else out. If you hear some rustling, it's my cat getting into a box behind the camera, but we're tuning everything out. So whether it's a distraction on your end or something going on my end, start to come into that space that's right there on your mat. And as we do that, you're going to set an intention for your practice. So an intention is simply a word, a phrase, a mantra, something that you are thinking about that helps you stay present, because it can become really easy to get distracted, especially in our homes. You have family members and pets, and maybe you notice there's dirt on the floor, or maybe someone's making noise. So it can be really easy to get distracted in our practice. So by having that intention, kind of helps keep you grounded when you start to notice your mind is going somewhere else. Start to bring it back to that intention. So your intention could just be a word that you're repeating to yourself. Maybe it's balance, maybe it's patience, maybe it's forgiveness, love, healing. And that could be something you're sending to yourself, or it could be something you're sending to someone else. Go ahead and take a moment to think about that intention. And then on the next breath, once you have that intention set, we're going to start to make our way into a full body stretch. You're going to start to reach your arms overhead, extend your legs long. If you have your legs bent already, go ahead and lengthen your legs, wiggle your fingers, your toes, roll out your wrists, your ankles. Move in any way that feels good. So maybe it's a little side to side movement. Maybe it's rolling of the ankles, whatever feels good. Kind of like you're waking the body up. After a big inhale, we're going to start to draw the knees in towards the body, wrapping your arms around your shins, giving yourself a little hug. And you have the option here. You can just stay still if this feels good. If you were liking that stillness and you need a moment more, just hug those knees in towards you. Press the spine towards the mat. Just take a couple more breaths. You're ready to start moving. You might start to circle those knees or rock side to side a little bit. When you do this, you're massaging the spine, you're massaging the back of the body. All those internal organs that are back there are getting a nice little massage. And then that left foot is going to come down to the mat. You're going to straighten the right leg. We're just going to take a couple rounds of raising and lowering that right foot. So as you inhale, lift the leg. As you exhale, bring it back down. A couple more times like that. As always, you get to choose the pace here that feels good for you. So someone might be going really, really slow because that's what feels good for them. Someone else might be moving at a little bit quicker of a pace because they're ready to start moving. The next time that leg lifts, go ahead and bring your hands behind the leg. Start to draw the leg towards you, massaging the back of the leg, maybe bending and straightening the knee, whatever feels good. Go ahead and do that. Rolling out the ankle, maybe walking the hands up the leg, lifting your head up off the mat. And then slowly placing your head back down on the mat. And then we're just going to bring that right foot to the left knee, making that little triangle shape. So when you look at your legs, it kind of looks like they're in a triangle. And the left leg is going to lift, interlacing the hands behind that left thigh, flexing through both feet as you draw the left leg towards you. You get a nice little stretch in that right hip. Maybe even taking your right hand and pressing the right knee away from you. You can rock it out from side to side a little bit, or even bend and straighten that left leg. And then we'll all bring the left foot back down to the mat and the right foot down to the mat. This time the left leg extends as we start to raise and lower that left leg. So the idea is that we're warming up the lower half of the body right now. We're starting with the legs by doing these little leg raises, and then we'll move into those hips in just a moment. So the next time the leg lifts, your hands come behind that leg, start to draw the leg towards you. See if you can keep pressing your hips down into the mat. I just noticed myself, I kind of lifted that left hip up off the mat to bring the leg closer to me. You really don't want to do that. You want to keep the hips down. So that might mean that leg is not as close to you, and that's okay. You could also have a little bend in the knee if that feels good. Really, whatever helps stretch out the leg at this point is what you want to do. Maybe you walk those hands up the leg again if you did that on the other side, sort of drawing the nose towards the knee, lifting that head up a little bit. And then we'll all bring the left foot onto the right knee, making that triangle shape. Right leg lifts as you interlace your hands behind that right leg, flexing through your feet. Draw the right leg towards you, maybe a little push of that left knee, pressing it away from you. And then gently that left foot will release from the right knee. Both knees are going to hug in one last time as you bring your hands behind your thighs, tuck your chin into your chest. We're just going to rock ourselves up to a seated position, maybe a couple times, maybe just one rock. Eventually, you'll come to that seated position with your legs crossed, your hands resting in your lap or on your knees. Just take a moment now to kind of check in with how you feel, check in with how the shape of your physical body is. So are you leaning forward? Are your shoulders kind of rounded or up towards your ears? Take a moment to relax through the thighs, lengthen the spine, sitting up a little taller, press those shoulders down and back, lift the chin so that the chin is parallel to the ground, kind of just growing a little extra inch taller here. And then if your hands aren't on your knees already, go ahead and bring your hands to your knees. Just start to circle that upper body. So bringing the chest towards the ground in front of you and then around and back, making those circles. Same things we did with the leg raises. Go at a speed that feels comfortable for you. So it's going to be different for everyone. If you are in a room with more than one person, you might look completely different, and that's okay. What feels good for you is the way that you're going to do this. Might not even be circles. It might be more like a twist or a side-to-side movement. All of that is good. If you are circling, make sure you go both directions. So pause and go back the other way if you haven't already. And then we'll slowly start to make our way back through center. Once you've taken a couple circles on each side, reach the arms overhead on an inhale, relax the shoulders. The right hand is going to come to the mat on the side of you. We're going to lean to the right side. It's almost like you're reaching the left fingertips over to the right. Roll that left shoulder open as you look under the arm. Nice big inhale, press the hip down, lengthen the side of the body. And then on the next inhale, you'll come back up through center and take it over to the other side. Left hand comes down, right fingertips reach. Looking under that right arm, get nice and long. And the next inhale brings us all the way back up. This exhale starts to bring you forward. So starting to fold forward in front of you, walking those hands away from you. And then each time you inhale, you're just going to kind of lengthen the spine a little bit more. Each time you exhale, you're going to fold a little further. So the idea is that you're creating space in the back of the body with your breath. Our breath kind of helps us come into poses a little bit deeper. So when you inhale, think about lengthening that spine. When you exhale, walk those fingertips a little bit further away from you, letting the head become heavy. And just kind of using that breath. And then we'll all slowly start to walk the hands back towards you. And you're going to make your way right into a tabletop position. So bringing the hands in front of you, coming onto your knees. Taking a quick moment to just check that alignment. Your wrists are below your shoulders. Your knees are below your hips. Your spine is nice and flat. And then once you have that alignment, you'll start to move through your cat and cow poses. So for your cow, your inhale presses your stomach down. Your gaze goes up towards the sky. As you exhale, we round the back and make that cat shape. Kind of reminds me of like an angry cat. I don't know why the other one's cow, but this one looks like a cat. And then go ahead and continue to move through them, pressing that stomach down, taking that gaze up as you inhale. Exhale as you round the back, press the ground away. And just like I've said a couple of times already, you also have the option to add on. So for some people, it might feel good to kind of move your hips from side to side, or even in a circular shape. You might kind of find some sort of circle where you're coming to a child's pose and then coming forward. Might mean you're moving your head a little bit. Kind of shake it out. Let that body move. Start to move with your breath. So think about each time you inhale, you're moving. And then each time you exhale, you're moving. Go ahead and do 2 or 3 more rounds here. And then as we slowly come back through center, you're going to begin to make your way into your first downward facing dog, tucking your toes, straightening your legs, send your hips up and back, and then just start to settle in here. So just like we did in that cat and cow pose, you're going to move a little bit here. You're going to lift up on your heels and then press them back down. Bend your knees nice and deeply and then straighten them. Rock your hips from side to side. Maybe shake your head out a little bit. We were talking about downward facing dog a little bit in our last class. This is a pretty common pose. We're here a lot. And for some people, sometimes it starts to become too much on your wrists, on your shoulders. For various reasons, downward dog might start to feel like a lot. You can always be in a tabletop from your down dog. So you always decide. Anytime I have you come in a down dog, tabletop feels better. Pretty much do the same thing we're doing. So go ahead and just take another breath or 2 here. And then on the next inhale, we're all going to roll it out into a plank position, drawing those shoulders over the wrists, tucking the tailbone. So again, this can be done from a tabletop. You kind of be in like a modified push-up shape. On the exhale, we're all sending it back to downward facing dog, pressing those hips up and back, relaxing the head between the shoulders. We're going to do that 2 more times with your breath. Inhale, roll it forward, tuck the tailbone, engage your core. Exhale as you send it back. 1 more time, just like that. Inhale, roll it forward, shoulders come over the wrist, tailbone tucks under, core is engaged. Exhale, back to your downward facing dog. Good. Now take your gaze towards your hands and start to walk towards the top of the mat. So you can take a bunch of tiny steps, as many as you need. So you're standing at the top of your mat. Your feet are probably 2 or 3 fist distance apart. If you put your fist between your feet, you can kind of measure that. And then you're just going to take any forward fold that feels comfortable for you. I tend to bend my knees here. It feels good for me. So if you like to bend your knees, go ahead and put a little bend in your knees. Maybe you hold onto opposite elbows. Maybe you have your hands behind your head. You can move a little bit like a rag doll, sort of just shaking it out, letting it go. Think about letting your body become really heavy. Almost imagine there's like a weight on the top of your head and it's just kind of drawing your head towards the mat. That's the idea we want here. We want to just become heavy. Let yourself hang. And then slowly Put a little bend in your knees if there's not one already, and we're going to lift ourselves all the way up. So come to standing, begin to reach the arms up overhead. Take your gaze up towards the sky, maybe a little back bend as you relax those shoulders. And then your hands can come to heart center, and we'll bring the hands to the sides of the body. You kind of shake it out, adjust a little bit. On the next inhale, we're just going to roll the shoulders up and forward towards the ears. As you exhale, let them release down the back. And we're going to do that a few more times. Inhale, draw those shoulders up. Exhale, release them back. Go ahead and take a couple rounds just like that, moving those shoulders, releasing any tension, any tightness that might be in the neck and upper back. And then we're also going to do the same thing in the other direction. So lifting the shoulders up the back and then rolling them forward. So kind of just turning directions with that rotation. And then the last time you do it, draw the shoulders all the way up towards the ears. Take a deep breath in, kind of create a little extra tightness, a little tension. And then with a big sigh, a big exhale, let it all go. Okay. And then we're going to let our chin release forward. So your spine is nice and straight, but your head is leaning forward now, lengthening through the back of the neck as you kind of look down towards your mat or towards your toes. And then you're just going to slowly let your head begin to roll all the way around, taking a couple rounds of full circles with the neck. Maybe even bringing your hands to the back of the neck, massaging those shoulders, the neck, the upper back. Especially if you notice any tightness, any tension, any knots, and you can kind of massage it out just a little bit. Do that, because that's really the idea of this. We want to relax those shoulders, soften, dissolve anything that might be getting held onto up there. Going back in the other direction if you haven't already. And then once you've taken a couple circles in both directions, go ahead and lift that head back up towards the sky, standing up nice and tall. We're going to reach both hands out in front of us and just start to make some circles with your wrists. So we're warming up those wrists just a little bit. Take a couple circles in one direction, and then also a couple circles in the other direction. And the right fingertip, you're going to kind of make a high five with your hands. The right fingertips are pointing up towards the sky. You're going to take your left hand and just gently draw the fingertips towards you so that you're stretching the bottom of that wrist. And then those right fingertips are going to point down towards the floor. Take your left hand and kind of press the top of your right hand so you're stretching out the top of your wrist. And we'll go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. So left fingertips point up, right hand kind of stretches them. You can do this at any point in your practice. Again, when we do a lot of downward facing dogs or even tabletop, you're on your wrists a lot. So if they start to feel uncomfortable, take a moment, stretch them out, roll them out. This can help. Go ahead and press those left fingertips back towards the mat, kind of press the top of the hand. And then we're just going to go ahead and sort of shake out both hands a little bit. Let all that go. And then making your way back to the top of your mat if you weren't there. On a big inhale, you're going to reach your arms up overhead. As you exhale, swan dive down, fold it forward. On the next inhale, your hands will come to your shins. Nice flat back as you lengthen the spine. And then on an exhale, you'll fold it forward. On the next inhale, lift it all the way up again. Reach those arms overhead, little back bend. Exhale, hands to heart center. We're going to take two more flows just like that. Inhale as you lift. Exhale as you fold. Inhale, hands to shins, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale all the way up, Urdhva Hastasana, Sanskrit. Reach those arms up overhead and then hands to heart center. One more time. Inhale as you lift it up. Exhale, dive it down, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale as you fold. On the next inhale, reach those arms all the way overhead, little back bend. This time we're going to pause here, interlace your hands, press the palms up towards the sky, take it over to the left side stretch. Nice stretch on the whole right side of the body, pressing the hips to the right, the palms to the left. And on the next inhale, lift it up. Exhale over to the right side, stretch it to the other direction. Roll that left shoulder open as you look under the left arm. And on the next inhale, lift it all the way up. Big swan dive down on the exhale, forward fold. Inhale, hands come to shins, halfway lift. As you exhale, fold. This time you're going to bring your hands to the mat and you're going to step it back to your downward facing dog. So go ahead and walk those feet back to the back of your mat. Kind of come into a plank first probably, and then press those hips up and back. Take a breath here. Maybe you're gazing towards your thighs, towards your shins. And then we'll all roll it out into a plank position. Shoulders over the wrist, engage the core, tuck the tailbone. Knees are going to come to the mat if they weren't there already. That tailbone is still tucked under. So think about creating a straight line kind of from the backs of the knees to the shoulders. You're going to hug your elbows in and lower yourself all the way down onto your stomach. Your hands are under your shoulders. We're going to lift up into a baby cobra. Your fingertips are lifting off the mat, pressing your shoulder blades together. So there's probably like 2, maybe 3 inches from your chin to the ground. You're not lifted up that far, but you're not using your hands to get yourself there. So you're kind of just using the back and the shoulders to kind of lift just a little bit. And then we're going to press it back to our downward facing dog. So go ahead and press those hands into the mat. Hips come up, knees bend, toes tuck. Find your downward facing dog. On the next breath, roll it back into that plank position. Find your strength here. Let's pause for a breath. This is a challenging pose. So give yourself a little credit for being here multiple times throughout the class. And then your knees will come down, slowly lowering yourself all the way onto your stomach again. This time you have the choice to take that baby cobra again with your hands lifted, or press your hands into the mat. Start to lift yourself up a little bit more, but being mindful of your back. If your shoulders are all the way up towards the ears, lower yourself down a little bit so that you can relax those shoulders. If you're feeling a little pinching in the lower back, again, lower yourself down a little bit. Your body will tell you if it's too much. Sometimes our egos will tell us to do it anyway, but we want to listen to our bodies. And then we're going to lower out of it and back to your downward facing dog. So press those hips up, bend those knees, tuck those toes, downward facing dog. Take a breath here. Maybe you're still moving a little bit. Maybe you're pedaling out those feet. And on the next inhale, we'll roll it out into your plank. We're going to do that little cycle one more time. Tailbone tucks. And the knees come down, slowly lowering yourself all the way onto your stomach. Again, you choose what cobra, baby cobra, or maybe you're coming up a little bit higher. Take a breath here. Feel that opening in the front of the body. That's what we want to obtain here. Opening in the heart and the chest, and a little bend in the back. And then send it right back to your downward facing dog. Hips go up and back, toes tuck, legs straighten, downward facing dog for one breath. And then we're going to take our gaze towards our hands and walk yourself back towards the top of the mat. Go ahead and take a couple steps. Feet are a few fists width distance apart. Hands come to shins for that little halfway lift as you inhale. As you exhale, fold. The next inhale, you'll lift it all the way up, reach those arms overhead, little back bend. Exhale, hands to heart center. Good. Inhale, back up, reach those arms overhead. Exhale, dive it down, forward fold. We're going to put a little bend in our knees. You're going to bring your hands to the mat. This time, we're just going to step the left foot back. So we're not coming into that down dog. We're just stepping the left foot to the back of the mat. The right foot is staying forward so that you're in a little runner's lunge shape. That left knee is going to come down, untuck those toes. So you're pressing the top of the left foot into the mat. As you exhale, send the hips back, fold over that right leg. So you're kind of keeping the left hip on top of the left knee. You might even need to kind of slide that right foot a little bit further forward as you start to fold over that right leg. Point those toes so that you're flexing them back towards the body. So you're kind of pointing your toes towards you. And then we're going to place that right foot on the mat, rebend that right knee as you press your hips forward. Lifting up through the heart and the chest. Take a breath in. And then let's just flow here a couple times. As you exhale, press the hips back, straighten that right leg, fold over that right leg. Inhale, press the hips forward, lift up through the upper body. Go ahead and do that 2 or 3 more times. Think about warming up the hips here, kind of oiling them. Sort of getting them a little bit, they can move a little easier. It reminds me of like oiling something that's kind of like squeaky or something. And then the next time you come forward, press those hips forward, and we're going to come into our crescent lunge or Anjaneyasana. So the upper body is going to start lifting. Your hands are coming to that right knee, or the hands are reaching all the way up towards the sky. Keep pressing that left hip down. Think about as if you want that whole front of the left thigh to be touching the mat. Most likely not. Not sure if anyone's would be, but that's the direction it's working in. You can kind of move here a little bit. Sometimes it feels good to move from side to side. Sometimes it feels good to sort of twist a little bit. If you notice that something feels good, do that. That means your body probably needs that stretch right then. We're all going to slowly bring our hands back to frame out the right foot. You're going to tuck those left toes, straighten that back leg. Your left hand is going to come down. So your left hand and your right toes are kind of in a line. And then we're going to lift the right arm up towards the sky. Take your gaze towards that right hand. So you're looking up at your right fingertips, twisting here. Think about trying to create one straight line from that left hand to the right hand. Your right knee is on top of that right heel. And then gently placing that right hand back down on the mat. And we're gonna step it back up to a forward fold. So maybe it's one giant step, maybe it's a few smaller steps, but the left foot is coming back to the top of the mat. Little halfway lift with your hands on your shins, nice flat back. As you exhale, you're gonna fold again, bending those knees so the hands can come to the mat, and the right foot will just step back. So now we have the left leg in the front. And for some people, it might feel more comfortable to kind of bring the right knee down and then work that back foot back. That's fine. Eventually, we're all bringing that right knee down. So if you had it down, you can actually keep it down. Press the top of the right foot into the mat. And we're going to take that half split by sending those hips back, coming onto the heel of that left foot, flexing those left toes, maybe sliding that left foot forward a little bit so that the right hip can stay on top of the right knee. And then you'll start to fold forward over that left leg. Maybe even massaging the back of the leg a little bit if that feels comfortable. Feels like it needs a little extra love, a little extra attention. And then slowly the left foot comes back down. The bottom of the foot presses into the mat. The left knee presses forward. Think about lifting up through the front of the body. Big breath in here. And then as you exhale, send the hips back again. This time we're going to move. So each time you exhale, you'll send it back. Each time you inhale, you'll rebend that left knee, lift up through the upper body. Exhale, straighten that left leg, press the hips back. Go ahead and do that once or twice more. And then the next time you come forward, Crescent Lunge or Anjaneyasana, hips press down, hands start to lift up. Reach the fingertips overhead or keep them on the knee. Everyone feels like it gives you the better stretch. And then we'll all start to bring our hands back to frame out that left foot. Tuck the right toes, straighten that back leg. Your right hand is going to ground down so that now your left toes and your right fingertips are in a line, and the left arm is going to lift up. Again, think about that straight line from the right hand to the left hand. Left fingertips are pressing right up towards the sky. As you look towards that left hand, the left knee is also on top of the left ankle. Always checking our angles and our alignment because that's important. That's how we prevent injuries. And then slowly that left hand comes back down to the mat. And again, we're going to step it up to a forward fold. Maybe it's a couple steps. Maybe it's one giant step. It can be a big giant step. That can feel like a lot. So if a few steps feels better, do that. Take that halfway lift once you get there. Exhale, fold. And on the next inhale, lift it all the way up. Reach your arms overhead. As you exhale, hands come to heart center. And then you can just let those hands come to the side of the body. Shake it out for a minute if you need a sip of water or kind of take a breath, whatever you need. Go ahead and reset for a moment. And then we're going to come into our tree pose this evening. So Your left foot is going to be your standing leg. You always have the option to step off your mat. If your mat's super squishy, it's going to make balancing harder. And also bring a wall to your left side, or maybe bring yourself to the wall. Don't bring the wall to you. So your left foot is going to be your standing foot. Your right foot is going to come to the inner ankle of that left foot. So kind of like your right toes are still on the mat. Your hands can be at heart center. And maybe you're here. Maybe this feels great. It's balanced, but feels realistic. It's just the right amount of challenging. Great, stay here. You want to add on, the right foot will start to come up the leg a little bit, maybe to the inner shin or the inner thigh. Just make sure you're avoiding that knee, so above or below your knee. And then you always have the choice to do whatever it is you like to do with your hands. And maybe that's something different every time. Maybe sometimes they're really wide, really open. Maybe you keep that prayer pose or lift that prayer overhead. Maybe you continue to move. Maybe the moving helps your balance. That's great. Or maybe it's just fun to kind of dance it out a little bit. So you decide, play, smile, have fun. For about 3 more breaths, you need to put that foot down a couple times and relift it. Great, do that. Keep challenging yourself to hold it a little bit longer the next time. And we'll all slowly start to bring those hands back to heart center. Let that right foot come all the way back down to the mat. And then just shake out your standing leg. Do a little forward fold to kind of relieve any tightness that might have been in the lower back. We're going to switch over to the other side. So now your right foot is your standing leg. If you're using that wall, just turn around so that the wall is on your right side now. You can either be leaning on the wall or just have it there close enough to you that it's there if you need it. Left foot comes to your inner ankle. Hands come to heart center. Find something small to look at that isn't moving. So something in your room that can kind of hold that gaze, hold that stability for you, and then start to come into whatever variation it is that you want to come into. If you're lifting that leg up a little more, if you're doing something different with your hands, go ahead and make your way into that shape now. Once you get there, remembering to breathe. So challenge yourself to count about 5 breaths, or probably 5 is good. That way you're making sure you're doing them, because sometimes we think we're breathing, but we end up holding our breath because we feel like that's going to help us stay, especially in a balancing pose. But the breath will actually help you. So make sure you're taking those breaths. And then once you've counted those 5 breaths, your hands will start to come back to heart center. That left foot will start to slide back down onto the mat. And just like you did on the other side, shake out your standing leg, a little forward fold, maybe a little rock of the hips if that feels good in the lower back. And eventually making your way all the way back up to standing at the top of your mat. So go ahead and find your way back to the top of your mat. We're going to take a breath in, reach our arms up overhead on a big inhale. On an exhale, dive it down, forward folds. Take a breath in, halfway lift as you bring your hands to your shins, flat back. As you exhale, fold it forward, put a little bend in those knees, and we're stepping that left foot back, coming to that low lunge again. So however you need to get that left foot to the back of the mat, go ahead and do that. Take whatever time or way that you need to eventually get yourself into this low lunge shape. From here, we're going to lift ourselves up into a high lunge. So you can bring your hands to that right knee first, and then eventually lift the arms up overhead. It might feel a little wobbly. This is a balance. You're on the ball of that back foot. So it's a challenging lift and you're balancing. Give yourself a little credit, but give it a try. Get here however you can get here. Relax those shoulders. And then I want you to think about bringing the lower half of the body closer to the ground. So you're bending deeper into those knees. You're kind of pressing down the lower half of your body, but then you're lengthening the upper half of your body. So from your hips up, your spine is lengthening. Your arms are reaching up towards the sky. You're growing a little taller while still bending into that lower half of the body. That right knee is staying above the right ankle. We're going to open it up into a warrior 2. So the left heel is going to come down to the mat. The right fingertips reach forward, the left fingertips reach back. Relax those shoulders, continuing to bend into that right knee as you take your gaze towards that right hand. Feel that strength in your arms. Check in to see if your arms are parallel to the ground. Sometimes we start to forget about that back arm and it comes down a little bit. See if you can keep that back arm strong. And then you're going to take the right hand, flip the palm up towards the sky. So the palm is facing up. Reach your right fingertips forward. So you're kind of getting a little stretch in the upper body. And then we're going to come into a peaceful warrior by reaching that right arm up and overhead. The left hand can gently rest on the back of that leg. Reaching the right fingertips behind you, continuing to bend into that right knee. Sometimes we start to straighten that right leg. We're going to keep that bend in the knee. Feel that stretch in the right side of the body. And now we're going to straighten the right knee. That should feel good. So your right hand is still reaching back, but that right knee is straight. We're going to take a breath in here, lengthen to the right side of your body. As you exhale, back to your warrior two. So rebend that right knee, arms extend long again. That's going to be our next little moving meditation. On the next inhale, that right knee straightens, the right arm reaches up and overhead. Big inhale, create that space. As you exhale, back to warrior two. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, warrior two. Go ahead and do 2 or 3 more with your breath at a speed that feels comfortable, at a rhythm that feels fun. Just kind of move with your breath. Let your body tell you where it wants to go and what speed it wants to. Once you've taken a few more, you'll settle into that warrior two and pause there. So checking that alignment, coming back to that warrior two. And then we'll all just straighten that right leg. Turn your right toes to face the side of your mat. Big inhale as you reach your arms up overhead. As you exhale, dive it down, wide-legged forward fold. I can feel that in my arms and shoulders. We were holding our arms up for a long time. So if you're feeling it too, that's okay. We're working those arms, so it makes sense. Anything that feels good here is what you should be doing. So holding onto opposite elbows and kind of rocking from side to side, walking your hands to your right foot and then your left foot, side to side, maybe even bending the knees. Just take a couple breaths here, let that upper body become heavy. Kind of like we did in our forward fold when our legs were closer together, same thing. Just let that upper body sort of give into gravity. And then from here, we're going to come into another little tricky transition. We're coming back to a low lunge at the top of your mat. And you're going to do that by starting to walk your hands towards that right foot. You're going to spin the right foot so that the toes are facing the top of your mat. You're going to come back to the ball of that left foot. Now you're back in that low lunge or that runner's lunge, just like where we started. We're going to take that big step with the left foot back to a forward fold at the top of the mat. Again, maybe that's a couple small steps. Maybe it's straightening the right leg first and then stepping the left foot up. Whatever feels comfortable and realistic for you is perfect. Bring your hands to your shins, a little halfway lift as you inhale. Exhale as you fold. Put a little bend in those knees. Bring your hands to the mat. And the right foot is stepping all the way to the back, coming to that low lunge to start. Go ahead and check in with yourself. So finding your balance, you know that we're about to lift up to a high lunge. So kind of find that balance, kind of settle yourself in here. And then when you're ready, you'll slowly start to lift up. You can start by bringing the hands to that front knee. Be sure that knee is above the ankle. And then go ahead and lift the upper body up. You're on the ball of that right foot. And the arms will reach up overhead. Just like we did on the other side, think about getting as low as you can on the lower half of the body and then lifting up with the upper half of the body. The only thing that's not lifting on the upper half of the body is the shoulders. You still want your shoulders relaxing away from your ears. If you feel like your shoulders are right there next to your ears, see if you can drop them down just a little bit. Bend into that left knee a little bit more. Feel that energy at the fingertips. And then we'll go ahead and open it up into our warrior two. Ground down through that right heel at the back of the mat. Right fingertips reach back. Left fingertips reach forward. Shoulders relax as you bend even more into that left knee. Take a nice deep breath. Settle in here. Arms are parallel to the ground. And then that left palm lifts up towards the sky. Reach the left fingertips forward as you give yourself that extra space. And then that left arm starts to come up and overhead for your peaceful warrior. Continuing to bend into that left knee first. Eventually we'll straighten it, but just for a moment more, we're gonna be in this peaceful warrior, stretching that left side of the body, reaching those left fingertips back. And then you can all go ahead and straighten that left leg. So this one's called peaceful triangle. Peaceful warrior when the knee's bent, peaceful triangle once it's straight. From our peaceful triangle, we'll come back to that warrior two on the exhale. And you're going to start to move again, just like we did on the other side. Inhale, left leg straightens, left arm reaches up and back. Big inhale, feel that stretch. Exhale, warrior two. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, bend. Go ahead and do a few more with your breath at your speed. You'd rather feel good with them. Feel like you're getting a nice deep stretch rather than going as fast as you can or doing as many as you can. It's not CrossFit. We don't need to see how many we can do in this time. CrossFit is great, but that's not what we're doing here. Once you've taken a couple and you feel good, you'll go ahead and settle back into that warrior two. And we'll all straighten that left leg. Turn your left toes to face the side of the mat. One more time, wide-legged forward fold. Reach those arms up overhead for an inhale. On the exhale, dive it down. And you always have the choice to do exactly what you did on the other side if whatever that was felt good, or maybe you're looking for some other ideas. So some other options could be a twist. Your left hand can come to the mat, your right arm lifts up. And then you switch, right hand comes to the mat, left arm lifts up. Maybe you walk your hands really far out in front of you, kind of stretching under the arms and through the back. Walk your hands really far behind you, sort of drawing the top of your head towards the mat. Play around, see what feels good. It's good to have a couple options because depending on the day, different things sometimes feel better at different times. And then we're going to find that low lunge again by beginning to walk your hands to frame out the left foot this time, coming back to the top of your mat. Spin those left toes forward, come to the ball of the right foot. And then slowly with control, however it makes the most sense for you, you're going to find that forward fold. So maybe it's a couple small steps with the right foot, and then you straighten that left leg and eventually find that forward fold. Once you're there, your hands will come to your shins, flat back as you inhale. Exhale as you fold. Inhale, lifts it all the way up, reach those arms overhead. And exhale, hands come to heart center. Good. Do one more little twist while we're standing. We're going to bring our feet about mats width distance on the shorter side of your mat. So if you're facing the top of your mat, it's the shorter side of your mat, a little wider than your hips. As you inhale, reach those arms up overhead. As you exhale, dive it down, forward fold. The left hand is going to come in front of your left toes. A little bend in that left knee can help kind of bring that left hand down to the mat. And then we're going to peel the right arm up towards the sky. Take your gaze towards your right hand. So you're twisting here. We've done a shape like this a couple times. Slightly different poses, but always the same. One hand is down, the other hand is reaching up. Think about creating that straight line from one hand to the other hand. Think about pressing that right shoulder open and back to give yourself that nice opening. And then we'll slowly start to switch by bringing the right hand down in front of the right toes. Put that little bend in the right knee, and on an inhale, the left arm starts to lift up. Roll that shoulder open and back as you look towards that left hand. Think about opening up your heart, opening up your chest. So if it was possible, your chest would be facing up towards the ceiling. So we're working it in that direction, twisting here. And then that left hand slowly comes back down to the mat. And you can just sort of bring your hands to your thighs and just gently press yourself all the way back up, kind of supporting that lower back. Once you find your way back to a standing, you kind of step your feet a little closer so they're not all the way on the edges of the mat anymore. On an inhale, we'll reach the arms up overhead. On an exhale, we'll dive it down, forward fold. Inhale to prepare, halfway lift, hands come to shins. Exhale, hands come to the mat, little bend in your knees as we step it back to our downward facing dog. Go ahead and walk those feet to the back of the mat. Find your downward facing dog. We're going to take 3 breaths here. So start to settle in. Maybe you're still moving a little bit, bending and straightening those knees, moving out the hips and the heels. Or maybe you're just finding some stillness, taking the gaze towards the thighs. Once you've taken those 3 breaths, your knees will come back down to the mat and we'll all find our way into a tabletop position. Toes can untuck as you press the tops of your feet into the mat. And we're going to extend the right leg behind you. Straighten out that right leg. Relax those shoulders. And the left arm is going to reach out in front of you. So opposite arm, opposite leg are reaching in opposite directions, engaging that core. So think about drawing that belly button up towards the spine. On the next inhale, nose, knee, and elbow all come together, round that back. Exhale, extend it long. 2 more just like that. Inhale, knee, nose, elbow together, round the back. Exhale, extend it long. 1 more time. Inhale, round that back. Exhale, extend it long. And we'll bring that left hand back to the mat. We'll bring the right knee back to the mat. You kind of shake your hips out from side to side a little bit. Let them release towards the ground on one side and then on the other side. And then we'll take the same thing on the opposite side. Left leg extends behind you. Find your balance here because we're already not on all fours. So you're already kind of starting to wobble. And then you're going to lift the right arm up. And now you're only on 2 of 4 of your foundations. So take a moment, find that stability. And then on the next inhale, knee, nose, and elbow all come together, round that back. Exhale, extend it long. 2 more. Inhale, knee to nose, round the back. Exhale, extend it long. 1 last time, draw it all in. Exhale, extend it long. And you can bring that hand to the mat, knee to the mat. Kind of shake your hips out 1 last time. And then we're going to meet in a seated position. So once you're ready, you can start to lower yourself all the way down onto your mat, extending those legs long in front of you. And we're just going to bring the left foot to the right inner thigh. So keep that right foot extended, flex through those right toes. You can kind of shift so that you're almost facing that right leg rather than like facing the side. And then on the inhale, your arms lift up. As you exhale, fold forward over that right leg. Think about keeping your back nice and flat. So a couple ways you can get there would be either to bend that right knee a little bit. So rather than having that knee press down to the mat, if that causes you to round your back a lot, you bend the knee and it allows you to straighten the spine a little bit. Another option is to just sit up a little bit more. Sometimes we're in such a rush to get our nose to our knee that we compromise the shape we're in. So think about that nice flat back and that breath bringing you into it. So as you inhale, space in the back of the body, length. As you exhale, fold into that space. Maybe even moving a little bit with that breath, inhaling, lifting up a little bit, exhaling, folding. And then on the next inhale, we'll slowly lift it all the way back up. We're going to do our pigeon pose from a seated shape tonight. So the left foot is going to come to the top of the right knee. We already did this on our backs at the beginning of class. So this is just another way of doing the same pose, essentially. Your hands are going to come to the sides of your body. You're making an upside down figure 4 with your legs, really, the best way to describe it. And then your right foot is going to come to the mat. You're going to start feeling it in that left hip. And that's when you kind of know that you're in the right spot. So maybe you start to slide that right foot a little closer to you or kind of bump up your hips until they're closer to that right foot. Eventually you'll feel it in the hip and that's sort of where you want to settle. Keeping that spine nice and straight. So you can almost use your hands to sort of prop up the spine. But if you feel like you need to bend, again, maybe you just walk that right foot a little further away from you. Flexing through that left foot. You can move from side to side. You can even shut your eyes here and really get into that breath. You could try to press the left knee away from you with your left hand, but then your stability might feel off because you have to lift that left hand off the mat. So you decide. And then we're all going to let that right leg start to slide all the way back down onto the mat. Extend the left leg long, tap the backs of those legs on the mat. And then the right foot will come into the left inner thigh, setting up for that fold. Sit up nice and tall. Flex those toes like you're trying to point your left toes towards your face. Really active, engaged. And then on the next inhale, the arms lift up. As you exhale, fold it forward, thinking about that flat back again. So modifying in whatever way you need so that you can flatten that back, whether it's bending the knee a little bit, sitting up a little taller. Another option is to use a strap. And a strap could be, I mean, they make yoga straps, but it could also be a tie or a rope or any sort of strap-like thing you have at home. And you would just wrap it around your foot. And then you can kind of sit up a little higher, keep that spine nice and straight, still use the strap to sort of draw you towards it. So that's an option as well if this pose is feeling a little limited or limiting. Wherever you are, think about that length. Each time you inhale, lengthen the back of the body. Each time you exhale, you're folding. A couple more times. Maybe you're actually doing that. Maybe you're actually moving. Maybe it's more just in your head, thinking inhale, length, exhale, fold. And then on the next inhale, we'll start to lift it all the way back up. We're going to take that right foot to the top of the left knee, making that upside down figure four shape. Hands come to the sides of the body. And again, left foot comes to the mat. You might actually not even place the left foot on the mat. If you're feeling it already with the left heel on the mat and you're getting that stretch in the hip, that's fine to stay right here. You don't have to place that left foot flat. You would just do that if you're not yet feeling it. And then same thing with walking that left foot closer to the body. If you're feeling it, no need to walk it any closer. But the idea is that you just keep inching further and further until you eventually hear your hips say, yep, that's good, stop, and then you'll listen. The same thing as you did on the other side. You can kind of move the hips a little bit. You can close the eyes. And just think about sending your breath into that hip, dissolving whatever tightness and tension is stored in there. Whatever you kind of shove down, let it go, let it dissolve, surrender it. And then we'll all slowly extend that left leg. Right foot comes to the mat, tap the backs of the legs on the mat, kind of shake it out. Take a moment to sort of collect yourself, grabbing whatever it is that you might need before we start to take it all the way back. So if you want a sip of water, some socks, sweaters, whatever is going to make you feel comfortable, go ahead and collect all that stuff. And then you'll reach your arms out in front of you. You'll engage your core. And one vertebrae at a time, you'll start to lower yourself all the way down, finding a full body stretch once you get there. Reaching your arms overhead. Big inhale. So feel that stretch. And then as you exhale, your hands come to the sides of your body. Even just let them fall if that feels good with a big sigh. We're going to come into our back bend for the evening. So the knees will bend, the feet come to the base of the spine. And on an inhale, you'll start to press those hips up towards the sky. So think about peeling your spine up off the mat. And then you have the choice. You can either keep pressing your hands into the mat, or you can interlace your hands under your tailbone. If you're going with the interlace, kind of wiggle your shoulders under you a little bit, kind of puff up that chest a little bit more. Think about pressing the hands together. If the hands are pressing into the mat, then you'll continue to press those hips up towards the sky. Chin is tucking into your chest. Breathing here. Feeling that expansion in the heart and chest. It's already being opened wide. And then when you breathe in, it kind of opens even more. So you're getting a huge stretch in the front of the body. And then one vertebrae at a time, we'll slowly start to peel that spine back down. Imagine it just gently peeling onto the mat. Once your tailbone touches, your knees can just kind of rock from side to side. I always think of windshield wipers when I do this, just casually couple rocks from side to side. And then gently coming back through center, we're going to come into an inversion. So always a couple options here. If you like to use a wall, go ahead and slide yourself over to a wall and then just start extending your legs up the wall. You can kind of sit to the side of the wall and slide your legs up. If you want to do that without the wall, right where you are, you can just reach those feet up towards the sky. Hands can be behind the thighs, or you can sit on your hands, whichever feels most comfortable to you. And then we're going to let the eyes close. And we're going to count about 5 to 7 of your own breaths. So you know when you got into the pose, if you're going to a wall, it might have taken you a little longer. That's fine. So once you get into that pose, let the eyes close. Start to slow down your breath a little bit. Maybe you were breathing a little bit heavier when we were moving through some of those more challenging poses. Start to let that breath slow down, finding a more natural rhythm. And then you'll count those 7 breaths on your own, taking as much time as you need here. I know I always say this, and it's partly because I don't know what everyone's doing at home, but if anyone is with their legs up the wall, you can stay there for the rest of class. That's a great way to do Shavasana. So if that's you and you are done, stay there. Don't listen to me. But for everyone else, once you've taken those 5 to 7 breaths, you'll start to draw your knees back in towards you. You can kind of hug your knees in, maybe even lifting your head up towards the knees, holding onto those shins, maybe a little circle or side to side movement, a massage for the back of the body. And we're just going to take one final twist by reaching our arms out to either side, big wide arms, and then let the knees release over to the right side. So your knees are releasing to the right. That left shoulder is pressing down towards the mat. And you're either looking up towards the ceiling or you're looking to the left, away from the knees. Whichever feels more comfortable. It's going to be a little more challenging if you're looking away from the knees. You're getting a deeper twist by doing that. Once you find the shape that feels right for you, your eyes can close. And just settle in here. We'll hold this for about 3 or 4 more breaths. Let it be really casual. So it doesn't have to, there's no specifics here. I want you to just feel like you're twisting, feel like you're relaxing, feel like you're starting to wind down a little bit as you get close to the end of your practice tonight. So once you've taken those 3 or 4 breaths, the knees will just gently come back through center, and then you'll shift over to the left. So the knees will release to the left. The gaze will either switch to the right or it'll stay up towards the ceiling if that's where it was before. And same thing, comfortable, casual. Maybe you're massaging the top of that right thigh if it feels a little tight. Maybe you're playing around with the placement of your legs. Sometimes you can get a deeper stretch by crossing one leg on top of the other. If that feels good, you can do that. Sometimes I like to have my arms in cactus arms. So just see what feels good for you. About 2 or 3 more breaths here. And then on the next inhale, those knees will come back through center. You can have the feet on the mat, the knees bent, and just ask yourself where you'd like to end your class tonight, where you want to end your practice. Maybe it's the same exact pose you started in. Maybe it's this pose. If you're staying here, you can kind of walk your feet to the outer edge of your mat and let your knees sort of lean in towards each other. Hands can be on your stomach or they can stay out wide. Maybe you turn over onto your side or even come back up to a seated position. So go ahead and take a moment now, decide where it is that you're ending your practice. Let the eyes close if they're not already. Let yourself start to become really heavy. Just completely melting, completely letting go, completely surrendering. Just almost as if you're just floating here on your mat for the last few moments. Just being here in this moment, surrounded by all that good energy that you just created here on your mat. Imagine it's all floating around your mat And now you're just lying in it, basking in all that goodness that you just created. Go ahead and enjoy this moment for a little longer in Shavasana. Slowly beginning to deepen your breath. Gently beginning to bring your awareness back to your body. Really small movements. Waking up the fingers, the toes, the wrists, the ankles. Just taking the next few moments to stretch in any way that feels comfortable for you. One last full body stretch, or bending the knees. If you're still lying down and it feels good, you can turn over onto your right side, coming into a fetal position. So your knees are bent, your head is resting on your right arm. And just take these last few moments here on your mat before you get up and go back out into the rest of your day. Just kind of take a little inventory of yourself, checking in with where you are now, see how you're feeling compared to when you first came to your mat this evening. Maybe you feel a little lighter, a little more recharged, a little refreshed, ready to head out into the rest of your week, the week ahead. Not like you just spent the last hour refilling your battery. Whenever you are feeling recharged and ready, you can slowly start to make your way all the way back up to a seated position, gently lifting yourself up. Bring those hands to heart center. I am so grateful for everyone who joins me, brings that light and that energy with you, and shares it with all of us all over the place, virtually sharing that energy. Hope you have the most beautiful evening, beautiful weekend. Until I see you guys next time, namaste.